1973, one Ronnie Van Zant coined the immortal words, "Sweet home Alabama, where the skies are so blue." A lot of people are rather fond of Alabama, and if the stories are to be believed, then the cryptid creatures we all know seem to love it too. Because there are quite a bit of sightings here in the Yellowhammer state. Those who know me know I'm native to Clarksville, Tennessee, but due to some recent events in my work life, I've found myself deep in the heart of Alabama, specifically Montgomery, Alabama. And what is one of the first things I did once I made it down here? Yes, that's right. I had to find a new place to go Bigfoot hunting. And since I've been down here, the Lord has really blessed me with the opportunity to see, well, a lot of amazing places. With a lot of those places being interesting to this community specifically. Here's some of my travels throughout Alabama, some being significant places to cryptozoology, and others were just plain interesting. Bet you didn't expect to see me anytime soon. It's like I fell off the map on YouTube. And in a way, I did. Because I'm usually in Clarksville, Tennessee. But due to some recent events, I have found myself down around Montgomery, Alabama. So, being around there, I needed some Bigfoot spots to go to. So, I'm down tonight in a spot I hate. I do not like it. I drove down here. Once I got in, I was like, oh, I hate this place. This is horrible looking. Anyone familiar with Mr. Jeremiah Byron of the Bigfoot Society will hopefully be familiar with this place as being the site where a man was allegedly killed by a Sasquatch because he was found at the bottom of his tree stand dead with his limbs pulled out of socket. Nice. It's just me. Just me by myself down here. Let me flip the camera around. Alright. It's go time. Here's some poop I found. I don't know what kind that is. But it's just me down here. I came down here recently to Alabama, and Jeremiah wrote me one day and was like, "Hey man, you've had anything going on?" I was like, "Man, I ain't had anything going on in Tennessee, but I'm in Alabama at the moment. I need a new spot to go to. Do you got any recommendations?" And he told me the story on what happened down here. And I have found myself down here, and it's creepy. There's a breakage rather tall. I don't know if maybe that fell on it or not. Let me see if I can adjust the focus on this. There we go. So, did that fall on top of this? Or did something just make that? Anyway. I may camp here tonight. I don't know. We'll see. The landscape is certainly different from Tennessee. I like this stuff hanging off the trees here. Now you're probably asking yourself, Elijah, if a man allegedly got killed down here by something, why are you here down by yourself? Well, that is an easy answer, because I'm alone down here by myself and don't really have anybody to go with. So, you work with what you got. Gabby is not with me at the moment. Gabby had a good time up at a nice waterfall today. Now, I had a nice day too, because I got to go see Kent Hovine of Creation Science Evangelism. Can't tell if I'm imagining things or if that's a stink on the air. Ooh. What is this? Cool, man. Is it just my imagination, or does this look like something? Like a lot of somethings. I do almost smell something in the air. Kind of has a like a gassy smell of sorts, not like fart gas, but like maybe propane. Well, maybe not quite propane, but lucky me, there's also supposedly rakes down here in Alabama. I don't know about this part of Alabama. Now I am alone, so I don't know how far I'm going to get from my car. There's brave and then there's stupid. Now a lot of people would say I'm stupid. I'm going to ask also, what, anybody who watches this, what is the ratio of dogman sightings in this state too? Are there many? I really don't know. Man, these trees make such a unique landscape. There's pine thistles all over the ground. Now hopefully I will have it up soon. I went somewhere very exciting for me. I went down to Pensacola, Florida a couple of weeks ago, and I went to a spot that I've always wanted to see. Back in the early 60s, a gentleman named Edward McCleary was out with some of his friends, and they were on a life raft trying to go see the sunken battleship, the USS Massachusetts. And while they were out there, some sort of sea creature that he described looking like something in the plesiosaurus family, a long neck creature, attacked and killed his friends. He managed to escape. But his friends did not escape. So, when I was down there, I hired a gentleman with a boat to take me out to see the USS Massachusetts. And I got footage of that and got to see the spot where Edward McCleary and his friends were attacked by this creature back in the 60s. So I've got a little documentary I'm working on about that. I wanted to interview Kent Hovind about it today because he's talked about that before, but unfortunately I didn't really have time. He took me on a tour around the park, but he was a little bit busy and I didn't really have time to ask him for an interview. But hopefully y'all can expect that in the next couple of weeks. Probably won't be anything incredibly long, but that'll be interesting for y'all. And quoting directly from Jeremiah Byron's video, the terrifying story of a hunter found mangled below the tree stand, his guest shares the story, stating, "We had an incident up here. We had a private gathering of Bigfoot believers a couple months ago up here inside the Holland's Wildlife Management. It's been several years ago, like 15 or 16 years ago, and a hunter was in a tree stand not far from this area we was camping, and he come up missing for 3 or 4 days. And his family got the sheriff's department up there, and he'd been in a tree stand. They found him below the tree stand, pulled apart from the joints. The family kept it quiet. They didn't want no publicity about it or nothing because it was afraid all these people would come in there and question them and make pictures and just on and on, so they kept it quiet. This guy with the rescue squad up there told me that he seen the actual report. The sheriff's report claimed he was killed by an unknown animal. So if anybody notices a change in quality, there's a reason for that. It would seem that I did not dump my memory card on my camera. So I'm filming with my phone now. It's creepy down here, y'all. Sometimes cryptiding stinks, dude. Someone was camping. Now, if I'm not mistaken, Mr. Jeremiah Byron mentioned to me that all the researchers that he's met that have went down here have had something happen to them. Does that mean something will happen to me? Probably not, because I'm like a magnet repelling these kind of things. I usually cannot get much activity. Maybe it's my bright flashlight, but I like my bright flashlight, especially when I'm alone in the woods by myself. So, you gotta do what you gotta do. So while I was at the Creation Museum today, I got to hold an authentic Ica stone from Ica, Peru. One of the ones that depict men and dinosaurs interacting with one another. The one I got to hold was depicting a long-necked dinosaur biting a man on the arm. And I tell you what, I've always loved those stones, the subject of them. I believe them to be authentic. Sure, there were some that people made forgeries over there, but a great number of them are authentic, and the ones that depict dinosaurs are authentic. But it was very, very fascinating being able to hold one of those. I held one as a child down in Pensacola, Florida, because he used to have a location down in Pensacola, Florida, and he moved to, I think it might have been Lenox, Alabama. But anywho, had one of those on display there, and I got to hold it, and it was really special. I love that. Now, I am entirely unfamiliar with Alabama woods, so for those in the comments, tell me, do you get bear down here, big cats? What do you have here that perhaps Tennessee does not have? Other than alligator, but I'm not gonna see one of those down here. Plus, it's too cold, I think. It does smell like there's some slight stink on the air, but it's hard to depict. It would be darn excellent if I had a group down here to go with. Spend the whole night and whatnot. That'd be freaking sweet. Anybody in Alabama, hit me up. Isn't Bama from Alabama? Just driving around, happened to notice a bunch of camp or computer chairs around the campfire. Okay. There's some eye shine down this way. Could be a deer. Probably is a deer. Somewhat past 2 o'clock in the morning. There it is. I don't know if y'all can see the... There it is. Eye shine. Bet you it's a deer. It ran off. I think it's probably a deer though. I never ended up experiencing anything concrete during the night at Holland's Wildlife Management. However, off camera I briefly heard what sounded like a tree knock way off in the distance, but I cannot prove that. After a terrible night's sleep, I woke up and drove to Birmingham, Alabama, where I visited the famous Birmingham Botanical Garden, and later the Birmingham Zoo, which was conveniently right across the street from it. I haven't been back to Holland's yet, although I do intend to revisit it. I did, however, make a couple of trips to the Talladega National Forest, which has been home to a few Bigfoot sightings of its own. The BFRO recorded multiple stories from that area, with the most recent being in 2014. Going off of their own report, one night a witness overheard his dogs barking and howling, and upon inspection, he noticed 2 sets of eye shine reflecting back from the tree line. The same witness mentioned that his wife also saw some large beastie standing around the 9-foot range, walking along the edge of the woods at around 4 o'clock in the morning. Another report. In 2005, a group of friends encountered a creature in Cheetah Mountain State Park, which is a part of the Talladega National Forest. They described hearing an unusual sound of an old chainsaw trying to crank, gradually getting closer and closer to them, and they ended up encountering an upright bipedal figure that was hairy with grayish fur. It was hiding behind a tree, and they watched it for about 30 to 60 seconds, and they decided to turn off their light to see if it would move, and about 10 seconds later the creature had disappeared. The next night they claimed to have heard 2 separate creatures, but never actually laid eyes directly on it. And lastly, in 1999, a woman going down Highway 21 came around a curve and she seen a Sasquatch standing along the side of the road. She stated it was hunched over like it wanted to jump or attack them. So I decided I wanted to check out the National Forest, but I specifically wanted to go to an area called the Devil's Den Falls. Not because I'd heard of any particular encounter from that spot, but rather I reasoned perhaps it had initially received that name, Devil's Den, because of a previous sighting. I got there and it was closed down to traffic for the year, so you know what that meant? A 20-minute hike down the road before I even made it to the trail. I'd actually tried to go live in the area and was successful for a few minutes before the signal finally cut out. Once you go so far down the road, you lose phone signal entirely, emergency phone calls only. And there was a thick fog all over the park to boot, which made visibility very difficult at times. I am walking down to an area in Alabama called the Devil's Den Falls. I'm used to my Tennessee woods, obviously, and down here in these woods, you got all these bright colored. They're almost reflective, so kind of throws you off, gives you a whole, oh man, I see eye shine kind of thing going on. Hey, we got another person in. How you doing? My GPS says this is like a 20-minute walk to here. And then from that point, I don't know how much deeper in it is. Howdy, howdy. Yeah, Gabby's not with me tonight. She's back in Clarksville, Tennessee. So my circumstances have changed just a little bit. I'm not in Clarksville for foreseeable future. My job moved, and I'm working in Montgomery, Alabama. Really deep sounding now. But yeah, anywho, I'm working down in Montgomery, Alabama, and it's been a good experience. My phone can't really see too well. So for people watching, that is just my flashlight. Oh, that's not cool. Flashlight just died. One creepy hike out. I think I might be close to the falls though. Flash flood area. Because I can hear water. Oh, sure hope my light doesn't go out on me. I don't quite fancy that long hike back and with the smartphone flashlight. Wasn't it nice of my flashlight to die on me, y'all? I kind of liked this thing too, but man, it doesn't seem like it lasts long. Maybe I'm not charging it long enough. So maybe you can tell on the camera, it is a foggy night. So I'm walking down into the Devil's Den Falls in the Talladega Forest, National Forest. Supposedly there's been Bigfoot sightings here. Not necessarily at these falls, but in this park. Maybe we'll run into something, I don't know. I got a 20-minute hike to the car, so I kind of hope not. I definitely hear the water. So I'm getting close. But oh man, this hike's, a lot of this is going to be, not the whole thing, but this is one big hill, y'all. If Squatch don't chomp me, I'm going to the Georgia Aquarium tomorrow, if the Lord allows. And there's some geese. Man, that's a long walk. So Gabby's not with me right now. For those of y'all that know Gabby, I'm temporarily down here in Montgomery, Alabama. This park's not Montgomery, Alabama, but I'm temporarily doing some work down here. Well, I obviously think I might have to get a... Did you forget to pay? Was I supposed to pay here? I think these falls might be a slightly longer hike than I thought. I can see it on the map and it still looks a decent distance away from me. I don't even see it on this sign. There's the creek there, but y'all can barely see it. Keep in mind too, I'm alone. I don't want to walk, I'm not telling how many miles in the woods while I've already walked 20 minutes away from my car. Y'all's lucky you got me to go this far.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
So tell me in the comments if you don't mind. Any Bigfoot spots you're aware of in Alabama that I could start checking out? Look at those bathrooms, y'all. Y'all think those are open? I bet they're closed. Oh shoot, one of them's open. Look at that. Oh, Gabby would love it. This is for you, Gabby. Really need to upgrade to like a GoPro or something, like Outdoor Boys does, so I can have it out on a stick that can film a lot easier. Oh, I can't even hardly see the road like this. The mist is kind of getting to a point where it's got that snowstorm effect. This is how bad the fog is I'm dealing with. This is awful, y'all. Can't see hardly anything. Whew. I'm tired, y'all. Not too tired to drive, but slowly getting there. I started leaving town maybe about 7 o'clock, and 8 o'clock I had a radio show with some friends, and that one ran for about 2 hours, and after that I left to come here, and that was a 2-hour trip as well. And I got back from the falls a little while ago, except I didn't make it to the falls. Walked a goodly some, but I didn't quite make it to the falls. It's pretty dark, but I got down the hill. They had the gate shut, so you would normally drive down there. I wanted to see the falls, but I walked all the way down, got down there, and it looked like the falls on my map were a decent walk away still, and I don't want to make that, so I just came back up. The fog was so terrible. You could cut it with a knife. You couldn't hardly see in front of you. Visibility was just so terrible. So I'm in the Talladega National Forest, obviously, like I've said, and to my knowledge, it is free backcountry camping here, so I'm trying to find somewhere to go. Now, interestingly enough, from what I've been able to see so far, it's not really like Land Between the Lakes, how there's roads going off to the side all over the place. And what roads there are, it's a little confusing here, because people's houses, there's actual houses down here, so I don't know if I'm just pulling into someone's driveway or not. Like, I keep going down the road and just see, like there's somebody's mailbox right there. The terrain looks different from what I'm used to in Land Between the Lakes. It's pretty down here, but it does have a different look to it. I was driving through somewhere, and there was bright orange grass growing up on the sides of the road, and there's tall, straight trees here. Tennessee, they're not very. Cheaha State Park, 9 miles. Good to know. But it's definitely a different looking terrain down here from Tennessee and Kentucky. I've just pulled into some kind of campground. Looks like there might be little cabins over here. So apparently I got like a 21-minute trip to that campground. I hope it's open. So as it turns out, I looked on the map, I'm not actually very far from that Holland, or not tremendous. Doesn't look like I'm tremendously far. But I'm not driving all that way to go there. To the campground. I didn't make it to the falls that night, and if I had known just how far away they were and how awkward they were going to be for me to reach, I wouldn't have even attempted it at night. But after a terrible night's sleep, I woke up and headed into Georgia to see the largest aquarium in the country, the Georgia Aquarium in Atlanta. And for those who haven't gone, it is a very nice aquarium I highly recommend visiting. And a weekend or two later, I decided I wanted to have another shot to see the falls that I missed during the day, so I drove back toward the Talladega National Forest and tried again. You know, it's funny how the woods are a lot less imposing when there's no fog or nighttime. Actually, kind of a relaxing walk today. Sun's looks like it's starting to get just a little bit dark out here. It's about 3:23. Sunset's probably around 4:40-ish, give or take. I didn't take a flashlight down here, so hopefully I don't goof around here long enough it turns into nighttime. I don't fancy the idea of that 20-minute walk out of here with my phone flashlight. That didn't sound like a fun time whatsoever. Well, I'm making some progress. Here's some picnic tables. Get that nut, buddy. See something red on that table. Oh yeah, got the playground all to myself. Guess it's a dog leash and a poop bag. I bet there's some geocaches somewhere here in this park. Kind of rough terrain going through here. Nice fire pit though. Well, that's mighty unfortunate. Went right there. A little further downstream from where my water bottle went. Hit my leg too. Well, after climbing around on all these rocks that are as slick as snot, falling down, losing my camera to the Devil's Den Falls, I sincerely hope this is not the falls that I lost my camera to reach. And if it's not, I think I'm done. The sun's going down, I don't got a flashlight. And yeah, I'm not going around any more of these slick rocks to find a waterfall if that's not it. 3 out of 10. Not worth it. But look at these handsome little purple berries I found.
I eated the purple berries. How?
Okay, I guess I changed my mind. I went a little further up. The terrain got slightly easier. So, pretty sure these are the actual Devil's Den Falls. And you know what makes me further sure? Observation deck right there. And observation deck right there. Don't tell me Google Maps led me down the hardest way to get here possible. I'd love to get up there to that easy walking platform. Guess that's my next step, see if there's an easy way to get up there. I don't really enjoy this path either. Well look, I'm almost there. Just gotta go up
this. Hey you guys, I did it. That looks a lot steeper than maybe it does on the camera. Woo! It's kind of nice from up here. I work hard for this channel. I'm just not on it often. Well, it's starting to get dark out here. But the good news is I followed this trail back and was able to I now pretty well have my bearings, I think. Shouldn't be much longer before I get to the entrance. And then that awful hike uphill back to the car. After seeing it from the observation deck, 4 or 5 out of 10. Wish I'd known that trail went up there. You see, part of what threw me off was online. Someone said it's a 7 to 8 minute hike going along the Cheetah Silent Trail or something like that. And so, as I came down along this trail here, and I started seeing small waterfalls, I was just like, well, maybe it won't be much longer. And I just kept going the trail that went alongside the creek, not knowing it was a much harder hike up that way across slippery rocks. See, I've done that kind of thing before in Pocket Wilderness up in Dayton, Tennessee. These are the slickest rocks I've ever been on, just about. The start of the trail. Praise the Lord. Well, I'm past most the downhill part. That was one heck of a walk. Just like last time. As you can see, sun's kind of going down. Looks a little brighter on this thing than it does in person. Starting to get dark out here. Hope my car is close by. As you may recall, I don't have a flashlight other than this cell phone. Don't look at me like that. I didn't know I was going to be in here this late. Well, my car's right over there. Anyway, I'm back to my car. That's all I'm concerned about.
So ultimately, the falls weren't worth it, and I don't see myself coming back to that particular location, but after another rough night of sleeping in my car, I woke up with a mission. This time, I was going to head further up north to the river at Gadsden, Alabama, because of some historical sightings with a river monster called specifically the Cusa River monster. Apparently somewhere around the late 1800s and early 1900s, people living along the Cusa River was having issues with livestock that were close to the shore coming up missing, and simultaneously there were also several alligators reportedly found dead along the riverbanks. Enter the legend of the Cusa River monster. On June 8, 1877, one of the newspapers in the region reported that one of their respected citizens, Marcus L. Foster, had claimed to see something large and mysterious in the same county, floating along the river. He described it as a serpentine type of creature. He got at least around 50 yards close to it, and described specifically the serpentine appearance, with a head resembling a horse, and a neck that stuck out of the water. He also went on to describe that the animal's mouth was open, revealing a bright red tongue. Marcus quickly paddled across the river away from it, and watched as it made its way down the river, and finally descended under the water. This particular sighting was said to have occurred in the Ball Play Creek region of Etowah County. Sightings of this animal extended all the way from Gadsden, Alabama to Rome, Georgia, where multiple encounters took place. Somewhere around 1862, Judge Lemuel Standifer had an encounter with the creature near Rome when he was paddling his boat around the river when he heard a terrible commotion of noise behind him described like distant thunder, and upon turning around, he was met with a serpent-like creature about 40 yards away with a head and neck extending about 14 or 15 feet above the water, before it too eventually sank below the waves. One of the more noteworthy individuals to see the creature was Captain J.M. Elliott, who was one of the founding members of Gadsden, Alabama. He supposedly had a few run-ins with the Cusa River creature. According to the story, he primarily would encounter the creature in the waters just preceding Rome, Georgia. According to what I've read, he noted that the animal was somewhere around 40 feet in length and was as thick as a large barrel, or a hogshead, which it is sometimes called. He described also that the creature would move with a leisurely gait and would slowly drift along the surface for multiple minutes at a time before descending into the water. And there are more encounters with the beast that I invite you to research, but for now, I wanted to give you a bit of a background of the Cusa River monster and show you some of the footage of the river itself.
Well, y'all, it took a lot of walking, but I finally found the Cusa River monster. It was just a misidentified paddle boat. There's no way that's not down here for a reason. That's not a coinky-dink.
After visiting the Cusa River, it wouldn't be long before I started looping back around and driving in the general direction towards Montgomery, Alabama. But before making it back, I hit a couple of locations that had reportedly been home to sightings of rakes, or crawlers as they are sometimes called. I like rakes for some reason. They're really spooky looking, but they also fascinate me. The rake began as a fictional creepypasta story, which grew from there. However, somewhere along the line, people started claiming that they were literally seeing some sort of creature in the woods that closely resembled the fictional rake creature. A thin, pale creature with long, gangly arms and legs and large black eyes. Are they real? I couldn't say for certain, as I have never seen one. However, there are a lot of people out there saying that they have. And I can't imagine every one of those individuals are lying about their encounters. Remember that 911 call in North Carolina that went popular fairly recently?
Okay.
I'm kind of in the middle of the woods at the moment.
Yes, sir. I'm familiar with the area.
What the?
What was that, sir?
That's not human! That's not human!
Sir, are you okay, sir?
There's something in the back of my truck!
Okay, what's in the road?
No, it's not in the road, it's in my truck! In the bed!
There's something in the bed of your truck?
Yes, ma'am, I just turned on my bed lights for my truck and there's something in my bed.
Okay, sir, when you say something, what do you mean?
I just knocked it off of the bed of my truck and went over my roof.
Okay, what was it?
Well, maybe there is something pale and horrifying stalking the Alabama woods. And frankly, if it isn't something of a demonic nature, I would love to see it also. I had heard of one possibly being killed in Tennessee some time back, and in my humble opinion, that would exclude it from being something of a demonic nature, as Jesus Christ said that a spirit doesn't have flesh or bones, and we're told in Scripture that a devil or demon is a spiritual being. While we're talking about this, a side note that I find rather interesting ties quite well into the topic of demonic spiritual beings manifesting as cryptids or humanoids or whatever really. It comes from the book Rescued from the Kingdom of Darkness by Gabriel Estevao, and Gabriel recently wrote this book describing his experiences growing up in an occult religion in Angola, Africa. During his time, he said he had demon spirits that would accompany him, not unlike guardian angels, and they would speak with him and educate him on various facets of the world around him, and how to properly serve Satan himself, who he was taught to love and to respect wholeheartedly. Long story short, Gabriel eventually converted to Christianity, and he would later go on to expose the things that he was taught in this occult religion. Quoting from the book, we find him describing his childhood. They would transfigure into children of my age, and sometimes, like animals, we would roam together in the beautiful state of the Cusa River in the endless beautiful landscape. I was silently learning from the spirits as they communicated with me through various forms and manifestations. They took on human shapes, animals, and even forms of beings unknown in this world. 6 days after his death, as my grandfather Bingo had said, one of the spirits that was with him transformed into a lion and roared loudly. All those in the neighborhood and nearby workplaces witnessed the lion's roar. And lastly, here's him describing the process behind what he called optical illusion, and how demon spirits can make you see basically whatever they like for you to see, and how they would assist those who had made pacts with devils to manipulate the vision of those who might possibly see and suspect something. Beyond being bought with money or other resources, the slaves were also acquired from those who made pacts with the spirits but didn't comply with the rules. People who sold their relatives didn't want other family members, friends, or neighbors to realize the situation, so they asked the spirits to manipulate everyone's vision to make them believe that the person was dead. That process that the spirits carried out in the vision of normal people is called optical illusion. They killed an animal or an object if their choice was used, depending on the moment and the need. The chosen animal or object for that action was presented to all those who were present and knew the personality or physical structure of the person within that geographical space. The person who was sold to live as a slave elsewhere was replaced by the animal or object. All people, collectively and individually, could see the dead person in various forms, according to the circumstances. Then everyone would come and mourn for this beloved dead being, and the animal or object would be buried as if it were that person. The hidden world is very dark and terrible. There, the most precious good, life, is not respected. Could this be an explanation for some of the strange things that people see in the forests of North America? Demon spirits and a sort of optical illusion, so you see the forms they want you to see. But getting back on track, I was unable to visit the exact locations of these sightings, but I got as close as I possibly could. Just a few minutes away from Gadsden, Alabama, we find Attila, and this area actually has some interesting historical significance to it. Apparently Attila was home to Camp Seibert of World War II. In 1942, 36,300 acres were possessed and was used for the creation of Alabama's first chemical warfare center. 47% of all CWS units of World War II were trained right here. And I find it interesting that with the dark history of the land, that something like this was encountered here. I want to share a sighting that user K.A. Wormrider shared on Reddit. About 10 to 12 years ago, I was riding to my house in my buddy's car, and I was just looking out the window. It was maybe 9:30 p.m. as we were passing this horse pasture. The road kind of went around it like a C. I saw something running. It was long and skinny and sprinting through the pasture. I get super nervous. As we round the curve, this thing runs out in front of the car, and I get a better look at it. It looked like a naked, gray, silver man crawling on its belly. This was super fast. Still don't know what it was. Another eerie sighting from specifically northern Alabama comes from Kyle Brown 070. I believe this encounter is very possibly from some private property in Morgan County, Alabama, which I'm fairly certain I've driven through going back and forth to Tennessee. Here's what Kyle Brown had to say. So 2 of my friends who were a married couple and I were walking on my family land. It's about 170 acres and heavily wooded with both pines and hardwoods, and heavily trailed. It was dark, but my friends wanted me to take them out walking on the trails. A couple of neighbor dogs followed us, a coonhound and a Great Pyrenees, and we walked south, then east to my camping area. We were hanging out at my camping spot when behind us, further back the trail we'd come down, the dogs started acting strange. We were looking back, and they came out of the woods to our left and stood on the trail. The Great Pyrenees started growling real low and looking defensive. The coonhound is a goofball, but he was also acting disturbed about something. They were both looking back down the trail to the west. I immediately got a quite strange and serious feeling. It was a bit ominous. I've learned to trust my gut, which I recommend to anybody in the woods, or if around a person or animal that you feel instinctively is threatening. Anyway, I said to my friends, we better get back to the house. To get my point across, I sort of grimly added, now. Well, we were heading west on the trail, and the dogs, if I remember correctly, had vacated the area. While walking, I looked back and saw my one friend, the wife, looking into the woods off the trail, and stagger back a few steps. I and her husband asked her what was wrong. By the way, this is the area where the dogs had previously been growling at. She said, I'll tell you when we get back. I don't want to scare so-and-so. He's kind of easily spooked, laugh out loud. So we get back and asked what she saw. She tells us that she felt she needed to look off the trail into the trees, and she saw something halfway behind a tree looking at her. We all had headlamps on. She said it was pale, whitish, with an oval kind of shaped head. Looked like it was crouching, with long limbs. She kept stressing how skinny it was, particularly the limbs. She said it had a surprised look on its face, like it didn't expect us to be there. Myself and friends, relatives, use the trails regularly, but not at night. She said that the thing was bobbing back and forth in a kind of creepy way, like moving its head behind the tree and then swaying its head and shoulders back rhythmically to look at her. She said it didn't appear to be aggressive at the moment, but looked scary. I pulled up the famous trail cam pic of the rake, or whatever it is, and she got a shocked look on her face and nodded yes. However, she made clear that it wasn't exactly the same. The next night, I was on the back porch and heard a freaky, very, very shrill scream come from the woods. I don't know if the two are related, but I've lived in the country for most of my life, and I've never heard anything like it. This is one of multiple things that have happened around here, but this is the only one that I know of involving this creature. This is in northern Alabama. Thanks for reading. And lastly, on my way back toward Montgomery, I stopped at a place that Lon Strickler shared on his blog, Phantoms and Monsters. This particular article is titled, Mysterious Mimic Voice Encounter Near Pelham in Helena, Alabama Draws Witness into the Woods, and I'll share the link in the description for anyone who wants to read it there directly. This incident occurred in October 2020 in Pelham and Helena, Alabama. I lived near the border of these two towns and followed the sounds into Helena from Pelham. I want to share as much detail as possible, as my interaction with this situation lasted over an hour and a half. It has been troubling me for a long time, and despite my efforts to rationalize what happened, I haven't been able to. I hope that by sharing my story, someone else might have had a similar experience and might help shed light on this. I live with my girlfriend in Pelham, and we're playing video games and relaxing late at night, and around 1 a.m., I can provide exact dates and times if anyone is interested, I went outside to smoke a cigarette when I heard a woman yell, "Someone help me." Since I live in a development, I initially thought nothing of it. However, the yelling continued for over 5 minutes, which raised my concern. As I paid closer attention, I realized that the cries were coming from across the main road near my development, in a small patch of woods. I initially thought it might be a fox, as their sounds can closely resemble a woman's scream, but the cries persisted. Then I distinctly heard, "Please help," and "Please, someone help." At this point I was sure this wasn't an animal noise. Growing increasingly worried, I approached the sound, thinking someone might genuinely be in trouble. However, the screams seemed to be moving away from me deeper into the woods, down to the street to another development. By this time I thought it might be someone's TV or perhaps a Halloween decoration making these sounds, but it still bothered me. I started walking through the development while texting my girlfriend about what I'd heard, just in case someone really needed help. As I continued down the road, I found it increasingly difficult to pinpoint the source of the screams, which seemed to be coming from much further away now. So I decided to head back home, reasoning that if someone were in distress, they wouldn't be running so fast over such distances. On my way back about 4 or 5 minutes, the screams started again, much louder this time. I realized they were coming from a larger forest near a cell phone tower. I could hear the screams clearly about 50 yards away, and I noticed the sound moving quickly parallel to me. It shifted roughly 50 yards to my right, then stopped to scream, "Help me," before running about another 50 yards to my left. I was baffled by how anyone could move so quickly, and this continued for about 5 minutes. The cries only paused for a moment to call out again before resuming their frantic movement. I was torn about whether to enter the forest to help, but I still couldn't see anyone. I noticed bushes moving and twigs snapping, accompanied by the screams. Suddenly the voice changed and began repeating, "Why aren't you helping me?" This went on rapidly for nearly 2 minutes. Then it shifted again to a low, grunting, growling noise, which terrified me. I realized this wasn't just my imagination. The situation was escalating. As I processed what was happening, I recognized how far I was from home and how long this bizarre encounter had lasted. It felt as though whatever was making the sound wanted me to enter the forest. It began moving closer to me, now running back and forth within 20 yards. I caught a glimpse of something that looked human-like, pale or white, crawling low to the ground and moving quickly. The combination of the terrifying grunting and this sight took my fear to a new level. I decided to call 911 immediately. I knew whatever this thing was, it wasn't friendly. I'd never heard of anything like this happening to anyone before, and I felt it was not a good sign. I relayed my location to the 911 operator and informed them about the woman's screams. Once the Helena police arrived, the sounds abruptly stopped. They searched the area but found no trace of anyone. I was left shaken and terrified to go outside at night. I never believed something like this could exist, and it's been messing with my head ever since. I was unable to specifically pinpoint where this individual's encounter took place, but I researched it about as much as I could and found a neighborhood in Pelham close to the border of Helena that matched the description, complete with a visible tower in the distance like the witness described. Is it the area? Who can say? But if not, it isn't very far. A fun little side note is that somewhere between Birmingham and Pelham, Alabama, I'm pretty sure I've seen a chupacabra. Not like the one you used to hear about from Mexico. No. When I say chupacabra, I mean the mangy-looking dog that people sometimes see now. It's technically a cryptid, but it's common enough that major news sources have posted about it before. I was coming down the highway during the day, and I seen it just hanging out at the edge of the wood line, chilling out. I stared at it and was thinking, is that one of those chupacabras? So I scrambled, went to the nearest exit, turned around, probably drove like a madman trying to film out my window. I noticed a cop driving behind me, so I tried to drive less irregularly, and turned around only to find that it ran off. I'm pretty certain it was one of those chupacabras in the modern sense. When I was growing up in the early 2000s, chupacabras were still said to look like this here, but what I seen looked more like this. As we begin drawing this video to a close, I want to mention where I've been for the holiday season. I'd hoped to have this video uploaded to YouTube closer to Christmas. However, on December 17th, the Lord blessed us with the opportunity to fly to see Manhattan in New York City. And I gotta tell you, for a redneck from Tennessee, that city is way more civilization than I need. It was interesting to see, and despite some aggravations in travel and transportation, I did have a good time in the city. But boy howdy, it's a different world up there. I was able to see some things that y'all might find interesting on this channel too, though. For those interested in the subject of aliens and reptilians, you may recognize this strange-looking artifact that we stumbled upon in the Museum of Natural History. I've seen it on Facebook before, but I had no idea that it was sitting in this museum that I was visiting. A reptilian-like being nursing a reptilian-like child. It's quite fascinating to witness in person, and I highly recommend this museum, by the way, for anyone who's able to visit. It's a really good museum. While I was there, I was also able to visit the famous Statue of Liberty. Has anyone heard about the conspiracies about this statue? For my conspiracy theorist friends, interestingly enough, there's a metal plaque located somewhere on the pedestal that commemorates the 100th year anniversary of the laying of the cornerstone, and it's got the Freemason square and compass on it. It's a plaque laid by the Freemasons, and I'll leave a link to this in the description, but even the Scottish Rite of Freemasonry has come out to say that the Statue of Liberty was conceived, built, and commemorated by Freemasons. There's also a strong belief that the statue is in connection to Lucifer himself. given that you have a light-bearing figure representing liberty. Lucifer had a message of liberty as well, except his form of liberty was just liberty and freedom from the law of God and the way of heaven. Additionally, there is a belief that the statue may have been modeled after a man rather than a woman, when French sculptor Frederick Auguste Bartholdi supposedly modeled the face after his brother rather than his mother, as is commonly believed. Interestingly, in occult circles, Satan can be worshipped as either a male figure or a female figure. You can worship him both ways. Even if the rest of this isn't true, I find it disturbing, though, that the symbol of America is the Roman pagan goddess Libertas, especially when we are one nation under God. Some extra info for my fellow conspiracy theorists. Here are a couple of other nuggets that you might find of interest. We noticed this monument while walking adjacent to Central Park. It was a memorial dedicated to Richard Morris Hunt, and when passing by, I almost immediately noticed some of the Masonic imagery. Notice the Pillars of Truth. It made me instantly wonder if Mr. Richard Hunt was a Freemason, and sure enough, he was. And interestingly enough, he is famous for having designed the pedestal of the Statue of Liberty. Lastly, I want to briefly mention seeing beautiful Rockefeller Center. When one thinks of this area, they are likely to think of the touching scene toward the end of Home Alone 2, when Kevin McAllister is standing in front of the tree in the ice skating rink, wishing to be reunited with his family. My sister Gabby has wanted to see this area for a long time. It was, in fact, a bucket list item for her to be able to come see this Christmas tree and ice skate in the center. But even in this beautiful Christmas destination, many people believe that Luciferian symbolism is hiding in plain sight. There are a lot of people that believe that the famous statue of Prometheus parallels Lucifer. Prometheus stole the fire of truth, the fire of illumination from the gods, and gave it to humanity. And in the case of Lucifer, he also brought knowledge of sin and consciousness of rebellion to our first parents, Adam and Eve, when he spoke through the serpent in Eden. There are some other interesting parallels connecting the two figures, which I won't mention here, but I invite you to research it more later. Lastly, on this subject of conspiracy theories, we found upon walking around that there's an owl that has become iconic, as it was found nestled in the 2020 Christmas tree here and was later rescued. And it may be nothing, but I certainly find it interesting that multiple Rockefellers, specifically Nelson and David, have been active members of the famous Bohemian Grove area in California, where they annually perform a mock human sacrifice in front of a large stone owl. Don't believe me? Feel free to research it on your own later. And one more quick mention before we wrap up this video, is that from a distance, I was able to see the famous New York City hotel, the New Yorker. This was interesting to me personally, because it was the last area where Nikola Tesla lived before he passed away. Tesla needs no introduction. He was an absolute genius, and he invented amazing devices that we still use today. He had over 300 patents. He perfected AC electricity, the first practical induction motor, the Tesla coil, and was working on wireless electricity through the Wardenclyffe Tower. Tesla was even working on a literal death ray, which we could make a video on that subject alone. Tesla was the man, and it was a real joy for me to be able to see this prominent part of his life. And I reckon for the time being, there isn't much more that I need to say for this video. I've been to a lot of interesting places in the last 2 months, and I'm really excited for the upcoming opportunities for this channel I believe the Lord is blessing me with. Shortly after I get back to Montgomery, I intend to drive 2 hours away into Georgia to visit the grave of the famous Georgia Wolf Woman. I've already visited Pensacola, the site of the 1960s sea monster attack. I've been through New Orleans, which is famous for numerous alleged vampire sightings, which I'm not too sure of, but I find interesting. I've been through or nearby Pascagoula, Mississippi, where Charles Hickson and Calvin Parker were allegedly abducted by aliens. I haven't really covered the topic of aliens very much on this YouTube channel, although I probably will discuss them in the coming year. I'm personally of the persuasion that most of what people are seeing are manifestations of demonic agencies, which are nothing more than fallen angels. There have even been alien encounters where they were rebuked simply by the name of Jesus Christ alone. I also passed through or was near to Mobile, Alabama, home of the legendary wolf woman sightings. Anyway, God has really blessed us, and it is my hope that we will be able to bless you back through the things that He has allowed us to go and see. In closing, I truly hope you've had a good Christmas season, and I hope that in the coming year, you'll be blessed and we'll all find ourselves in a closer walk with the Lord. Time is really getting away from us, friends, and every year we all get a little closer to our expiration date. We are not promised tomorrow. All we have in this life is a little slash in between two dates, and we have to make the most of that time. So friends, take time for God. He always has time for you. Take time for others, because showing others kindness is one of the ways in which we can save the world. And lastly, may God protect you and keep you this and every Christmas season. Merry Christmas, y'all, and if the Lord allows, it's going to be a great year for cryptozoology.